Meanwhile, we are continuing to follow a tragic story from Sacramento. A father killed his 3 young girls and a man before then turning the gun on himself. The murder-suicide happened at a church last night. Investigators are now trying to piece together what led up to that shooting. KRON 4's Jonathan McCall joining us live now from Sacramento with the latest details. Jonathan.
Noel, good afternoon from Sacramento. That investigation into what triggered that horrific scene here at this church last night is still ongoing at this hour. But for the folks who live in this area, we are just north of Arden Fair Mall. For the folks who are familiar with Sacramento, we are in this area, and all day long we have been seeing folks who have just been coming here, leaving mementos, flowers, and other just items to remember these innocent victims of just this horrific scene. Want to pan my camera if I can and show you just some of the folks who have been coming out here and leaving those items as well. This has been the scene all day long. This community just so deeply impacted by this tragedy, and now the search for answers continues, and many folks are hoping to find some type of grief or some type of comfort in those answers. As the sun rose Tuesday morning, folks started honoring the innocent victims of a horrific tragedy that happened just hours before. Flowers, balloons, candles, and even stuffed animals now sit outside of this house of worship that turned into a crime scene Monday evening. Sacramento Sheriff's investigators say a man shot and killed his own 3 daughters along with a 59-year-old man before turning the gun on himself.
The shooter, who is deceased, has a restraining order against him and has to have supervised visits with his children. We believe that at this church that what was happening, a supervised visit, and the shooter came in and what appears to be killed the person who was supervising the visit, killed his own 3 children, and then turned the gun on himself.
The man's daughters, ages 9, 10, and 13, attended Natomas Unified Schools. In a statement on Tuesday, the district called the shooting an unspeakable tragedy. This man says he was inside of the church's main building at the time of the shooting.
If there's a message to be taken here, is that we love one another, that we learn to forgive one another. Life is fragile. We don't know when we're here, when it's done and gone. My message would be to forgive, not hold on to resentment.
So far, investigators have not released the name of the 39-year-old shooter or the victims, or what may have... So far, investigators have not yet released the name of the 39-year-old shooter, the victims, or released what... So far, investigators have not released the name of the 39-year-old shooter or the victims, or what weapons may have been used. Investigators say they are treating this case as a domestic violence incident. Among the many questions still unanswered, how the man was able to have a gun with an active restraining order against him. For the folks living in this neighborhood, they say the tragedy is simply too much for them to bear.
My child, and any other children that, are playing in those apartments and these apartments. My kids play outside. I'm just thankful it wasn't us.
This was supposed to be a place, a sanctuary, a safe haven, meeting place. This did not have to happen. This has got to stop. This has got to stop.
As we were saying, so many unanswered questions connected to this tragedy tonight. Again, authorities still have not yet released the name of that man or the other victims, including his daughters and the other person who was shot and killed tonight. As for the mother of those 3 young girls, we are told that she is okay, but obviously has now the unenviable task of trying to plan funerals for her 3 daughters. As for the folks here at this church where the scene all happened, we did hear from one person earlier today, but not through an official statement. We are told that would come sometime today. We are still waiting, and we will have an update on this story coming up for you tonight on KRON 4 News at 5. We're live this afternoon in Sacramento. Jonathan McCall, KRON 4 News.
Just a heartbreaking story, John.